धनञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the heart of Sanatana Shiksha, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, which is chapter 22 in the Madhya Leela. So yesterday we began this series by first having an overview of chapter 20 and 21, which we have already discussed. So we mentioned how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was put forth these 4 questions by Sanatana Goswami. Kiyami, who am I? And why do I suffer the threefold miseries? And what is sadhya and what is sadhana? So the 4 questions were put. And Mahaprabhu in Sanatana Shiksha is teaching Krishna Sarup, Krishna Madhurya, Krishna Aishwarya, and Bhakti Ras. 4 things is what constitutes Sanatana Shiksha. So after these 4 questions are put forth by Sanatana Goswami, Mahaprabhu begins his answers. Who are you? I'm a spirit soul, Jivera Swarupa, Krishna Nityadas. And you're the Tatastha Shakti. Krishna has these 3 energies. And now because you're caught in the Bhairanga Shakti, you're facing the Trivida Thap. So Bhagavan Sambandha, Bhakti Abhidaya, Prema Prayojan. So this will answer sadhana and sadhya. And within these teachings, we find what is the Dashamula Tattva of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which constitutes 10 truths. And the first 8 are Sambandha, the 9th one is Abhidaya, sadhana, and Prem is Prayojan. One is called as Amnaya, that is Praman. The remaining 9 are called as Pramaya. So within these 10 truths, there is Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojan. And in chapter 20 and 21, Bhagavan Sambandha. Who is this Bhagavan? Whether it is Dwarka Krishna, Mathura Krishna, or Vrindavan Krishna. Swayam Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is analyzed, different manifestations of Bhagavan, There is Swayam Bhagavan, there is Tadekatma and Avesh. And within Swayam Bhagavan, there is Swayam Prakash. There is Vaibhav Prakash and Prabhav Prakash. And within Tadekatma, there is Vilas and Prabhav. And there is again divisions in that. And then there are the Guna avatars, Purusha avatars, the Guna avatars, the Leela avatars, the Manvantara avatars, the Yuga avatars, and the Shakti Avesh avatars. So like that, an entire analysis is done of understanding Bhagavad Tattva, because someone has to be developed with Bhagavan. So that what is constitutes chapter 20. In chapter 21, Krishna Ishwarya and Krishna Madhurya is discussed. What is the opulence of Krishna? And many pastimes about Brahmas, meeting all the Brahmas from different universes, that pastime is there. Within this Ekpad Vibhiti, this pastime is there, the Brahma Vimohan Leela is there. And understanding Krishna Ishwarya, then Mahaprabhu goes to Krishna Madhurya, the beauty of Krishna in Vrindavan, holding his flute, Krishna's beauty compared to 24 and a half Chandras. And, like that, Krishna's smile, like that, the Madhurya feature of the Lord is ultimately Bhagavan Sambandha we have to develop. So that's where chapter 21 ends. So in one sense, Sambandha is discussed in chapter 21 and 20 and 21. And Abhidheya Tattva is discussed in chapter 22. So today we will begin chapter 22. So let us go now first to the overview of chapter 22. In text 1 to 16, Lord Krishna, his expansions and the living entities is discussed. So Lord Krishna expands himself into Swaamsha and Vibhinnamsha. And the Vibhinnamsha, the Tatastha Sakshi, the Jiva. And within that, there are these two categories, Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. And how the Nitya Baddha can be delivered. That is discussed. That deliverance is happening by connecting through yoga. And there is karma, jnana, and bhakti. So the topmost yoga is bhakti. So the glory, supremacy, and the independence of Krishna Bhakti is discussed in 17 to 30 verses. So firstly, there is superiority of Krishna Bhakti, and Bhakti is the only means for deliverance. And the true position of Krishna and Maya, Krishna's vow to deliver the surrendered, these are discussed. Oh, sorry, only these two sections, sorry. I somehow it was overlapped. So within 17 to 30, these two subsections are there, 17 to 22 and 23 to 30. And 31 to 42, Krishna's mercy on those who approach him. What is Krishna's mercy? So what is Krishna's position and Maya, and how Krishna's vows to deliver? Bhakti with material desires and Krishna's response. When we have bhakti with, Sakama Bhakti it is called, not Nishkama Bhakti, Sakama Bhakti. So how Krishna's response to that? Then attaining devotional service by devotees' mercy. So how does bhakti begins? By devotees' mercy. The chance for the conditioned soul deliverance, Krishna's mercy on him, and the awakening of his love for Krishna in the association, only by satsang it happens. Then there is classification of devotees based on Shraddha, Rati, and Prema. Then 75 to 92, Vaishnava qualities and Vaishnava association. Good qualities of Vaishnavas and power of their association, and avoiding bad association, satsang and asatsang. Then 93 to 103, exclusive surrender to Lord Krishna. In this, there is subsection from 93 to 95, Krishna's qualities inspire surrender. 99 to 103, two kinds of devotees and 6 divisions of surrender. And 104 to 169 is sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. So within devotional service in practice, 104 to 108, sadhana bhakti and its characteristics are given. And 109 to 148, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, definition of the 64 limbs and the 5 best limbs, obligations that don't apply for a devotee. And we know that within sadhana bhakti, there is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So Raganuga sadhana is discussed from 149 to 165. And what are the definitions of Ragatmika and Raganuga, and processes and characteristics of Raganuga bhakti, and conclusion and Falashruti is there. So that's how that entire chapter of chapter 22 ends. Now, while we will be discussing especially the classification of devotees and surrender to Krishna, because Shuddha Bhakti begins from complete surrender. And then Sadhana Bhakti, we will be going into nectar of devotion parallelly also. And initially, while discussing about Krishna's, Vibhinamsha, the Nitya Bhukta and the Nitya Bhada, the Dashamula Tattva will also come. And the Abhidheya is Bhakti. So 3 Dashamula Tattvas Mahaprabhu is discussing here. Bhakti Thakur is going to bring out that. So we will be also looking into that. So this is just a brief overview of chapter 22, which is going to come. Now let us go to the first section, Lord Krishna, his expansions and the living entity. So there is the invocation. Krishna is the only shelter. Krishna Swamsha and Vibhinam's expansions, the Nitya Mukta and the Nitya Samsar, Nitya Baddha you can say, and the deliverance of the conditioned soul. So let's begin with the Mangala Charan. The Mangala Charan verse of Kaviraj Goswami, although Chaitanya Charitamrita is a Bengali work of Kaviraj Goswami, although Kaviraj Goswami is from Vrindavan, we see that all the Goswamis of Vrindavan wrote literatures in Bengal, in Sanskrit, and they focused on philosophy and mostly on Krishna, whereas the Gaudiya devotees of Orissa and Bengal more focused writings in Bengali. They more focused on the pastimes of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sorry. So, but although Chaitanya Charitamrita is a Bengali composition, but every first verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita is in one sense a Sanskrit verse. And that encapsulates what this entire chapter is going to speak about. So let us read this Mangalacharan verse. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Tam Karunarnavam Kalav Ati Gurdheyam Bhaktiryena Prakashita. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vande Shri Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanya. He is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Karuna Arnavam. Arna means the ocean, and he's an ocean of mercy. And although the subject matter of Bhakti Yoga is very confidential, Bhaktir Ati Gudayam. It's very, very good. He has nonetheless manifested it so nicely, even in this age of Kali. Kalavapya. Yena Prakashita. This age of coral. So this is the Mangalacharan verse. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Tam Karunarnavam Kalav Apya Ati Gudayam Bhakti Rena Prakashita. So one from the Prabhuji's side and one from the Mataji's side can recite this verse. So who would like to recite from the Prabhuji's side? Can raise your hands. Yes, Parsarthi Prabhuji, you raised your hand first, so can recite.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Tam Karunarnavam Kalav Api Ati Gudeyam Bhaktiryena Prakashita. Thank you.
Wonderful. From the Mataji side, who would like to recite. Nag Lakshmi Mataji. Nag Lakshmi Mataji, yes.
वन्दे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य देवं तं करुणार्णवं कलौ अपै अतिगुधेयं भक्तिर्येन प्रकाशिता।
So we should always try to remember these verses at least. Mangalachan, if you recite it few times, then it will stay in our memory. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityanand Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ete kahilun sambandha tatvera vichar, Veda Shastra Updesh, Krishna Ekasar. Mahaprabhu is continuing to speak now to Sanatana Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I have described one's relationship with Krishna in various ways. Ete kailono sambandha tatvera vichar. So where has Mahaprabhu spoken about sambandha tattva vichar? Who will answer this? Where has Mahaprabhu spoken about sambandha tattva vichar? Who will answer this question? One hand, two hands have been raised. Anyone else also would like to try? Where has Mahaprabhu spoken about Sambandha Tattva Vichar? Okay, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna code Dandavat. Prabhu, it is previous chapter, chapter 20 and 21.
Chapter?
Chapter 20 and 21.
Chapter 20 and 21, yes. So exhaustively in 2 chapters, Sambandha has been discussed. So how important it is for us to study Sanatana Shiksha quite elaborately and exhaustively. Because as long as our Sambandh is not very, very strong and deeply established, we will not practice Abhidheya properly and will not get the prayojan. One thing we should remember that we know that our Sambandha Acharya is Sanatana Goswami, Abhidheya Acharya is Rupa Goswami, and Prayojan Acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, which is the foundational scripture for Gaudiya Vaishnavas? Anyone knows? Raise your hand. Which is the most important and foundational scripture for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas? It's a little tricky, but I'd still like to hear from the devotees what their thoughts are. There's one hand raised. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna code Dandavat. It's a Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay.
Otherwise, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Okay. There is one more hand raised. Reena Mataji, you have to say something.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhuji. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam, yes. So the foundational Gaudiya Vaishnava scripture is Brahat Bhagavatamrit. It's Brahat Bhagavatamrit. And that was given by Sanatana Goswami. In fact, all the Goswamis, like Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and all the Goswamis who composed literatures, they based their teachings and writings based on the foundational scripture of Brahat Bhagavatamrit. And it is said that one who reads Brahat Bhagavatamrit, because Raghunath Das Goswami is our Sambandha Acharya, there the subject matter of Sambandha is also discussed, Abhidheya is also discussed, and Prayojan is also discussed. But the Sambandha, when we come to know how much Krishna loves his devotees, in fact, Gopakumar, when he ultimately goes and meets Lord Krishna in Gokul, Vrindavan, Krishna is waiting for him. And in fact, Krishna faints when he sees Gokumar. I've been waiting for you so long. So such deep attachment, sambandh, when we see that, then our impetus to practice devotion, abhidheya, becomes very strong, and ultimately we'll attain prayojan also. So this Sambandha Tattva is so important that 2 chapters are devoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita for it. And although we saw that chapter 20 was very philosophical, especially about the different, Krishna's manifestations in the form of Swayam Bhagavan, Tad Ekatma, and Avesh. But it is very important for us to understand, because with that foundational Sambandha Gyan, when we practice bhakti, then that abhidheya will lead to prayojan. So Mahaprabhu is saying, Etakailo no Sambandha Tattva Vichar. I have given this Sambandha Tattva, this subject matter, Veda Shastra. This is the subject matter of all the Vedas. Krishna Ikskar. Krishna is the center of all activities. So as Prabhuji aptly answered, that Sambandha Tattva is discussed in chapter 20 and 21. So now Abhidheya will be discussed in chapter 22. And you saw chapter 22 overview where Sadhana Bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga discussed. Sadhya Bhakti is Bhava Bhakti. So Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti will be discussed in chapter 23, which also we will be covering briefly in the same series. So this is what he's saying. Now I've discussed Sambandhitva, and Krishna is the essence of everything. Ebe kahe suno abhidheya lakshan, yahai te paye Krishna, Krishna prema dhan. Now I shall speak about the characteristics of devotional service. Abhidheya lakshan, by which one can attain the shelter of Krishna and his loving transcendental service. Yahai te paye Krishna. By abhidheya, by understanding the abhidheya lakshan, we can attain the shelter of Krishna and attain transcendental loving service unto him. Krishna Bhakti Abhiday Sarva Shastra Kahe Ataiva Munigan Kariyache Nishay. A human being's activities should be centered only on devotional service to Lord Krishna. Krishna Bhakti Abhiday, that is the verdict of all literature. Sarva Shastra Kahe. And all saintly people have firmly concluded this. Ataiva Munigan Kariyache Nishay. So Bhakti is Abhiday. Krishna Bhakti is Abhiday. Bhagavan Sambandha Bhakti Abhidhaya, Prema Prayojan. That is spoken in 20th chapter. So now it is more emphasized. Krishna Bhakti is Abhidhaya. Now, where have the Munigan spoken? That is described in the next verse, text 6. Shrutir mata prishta dishati bhavad aradhanam vidhim yata maturvani Smritir api tata bhakti bhagini Puranadya yeva sahaja nivasate tad anuga atha satyam yatam murahare bhavan eva sharanam. So where the Munigan have spoken in the Vedic literatures, here is a Praman. When the mother Vedas, Shruti, is questioned as to whom to worship, Shrutir, Mata, Prushta. Prushta means question. Dishati, Bhavad, Aradhanam Vidhim. Whom to be worshipped? She says that you are the only Lord and worshipable object. This is what the Shruti answered, Mother Vedas answered. Similarly, the corollaries of the Shruti Shastras, that is the Smriti Shastras, give the same instructions like the sisters. Yatha Matur Vani Smritir Api Tata Bhakti Bhagini. Bhagini sister. The Puranas, which are like brothers, Puranadya, Tad Anuga. Anuga means brothers, follow in the footsteps of their mother. Ye va Sahaja Nivasa Tad Anuga. O enemy of Murademon, Murahara, the conclusion is that you are the only shelter. Eva Sharanam. Ahata Satya Gyatam. Now I have understood this truth. So this is the quotation from the Vedic literature, was spoken to the Lord by the great sages. So the great sages spoke to the Lord and it is from a Vedic literature. Now, I don't also have a reference where this shloka is, whether it is from the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, or the Sam Veda, or the Athar Veda, or from some Upanishads. I tried to find out, but I could not trace it. So if you also get to know, please let me know. Just Prabhupada mentions it is from the Vedic literature. Definitely it refers to from the Shruti category only. Advaya Jnana Tattva Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Swarupa Shakti Rupe Tanra Haya Avasthan. Krishna is the non-dual absolute truth. Advaya Jnana Tattva, the supreme personality of Godhead. Swayam Bhagavan. Although he is one, he maintains different personal expansions and energies for his pastimes. Swarup Shakti Rupe Tanra Haya Avasthan. So his different manifestations we studied in chapter 20 quite in detail. But Krishna has unlimited Shaktis by which he expands. So now that will be explained. Srila Prabhupada, the Lord has many potencies and he is non-different from all these potencies. Because the potencies and the potent cannot be separated, they are identical. So Prabhupada's language is also very philosophical, potency and potent. So the potent is the Lord. The potencies are the energies which he belong to. Shaktiman and Shakti. There is Shaktiman and there is Shakti. Krishna is described as the source of all potencies, and he is also identified with the external potency, the material energy. Krishna has also internal potencies or spiritual potencies which are always engaged in his personal service. His internal potency is different from his external potency. Krishna's internal potency and Krishna himself, who is the potent, is always identical. So Prabhupada, he brings out here that especially with the internal potency, Krishna with his external potency personally does not perform pastimes. It is his another wife, and that is Durga, but in his expansion as Shambhu, he becomes a material father and Durga becomes a material father, mother of all the jivas. So Krishna is, in one sense, he has delegated that external energy pastimes, but he enjoys in his internal potency. So that's why Prabhupada makes that point and emphatic here in the statement. Now Krishna's energies have been discussed. Swamsha Vibhinnamsha Rupe Hana Vistar Nanta Vaikunta Brahmande Karena Vihar. Krishna expands himself in many forms. Some of them are personal expansions, Swamsha, and some are separate expansions, Vibhinnamsha. Thus he performs pastimes in both the spiritual and the material worlds. The spiritual worlds are the Vaikunta planets, Ananta Vaikunta, and the material universes are the Brahmands, Brahmanda, Kare, Vihar. Vihar means pastimes. Swam Savistara Chatur Viva Avataragan, Vibhinnamsha Jiva Tanra Shakti Teganan. Expansions of his personal self, like the quadruple manifestations of Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh, and Vasudev, descend as incarnations from Vaikunta to this material world. So his Swamshas expand, and we saw this in chapter 20, how Krishna's first expansion is Balram. His first bodily expansion is Balram. They are one, but only different in color. And further, in Golok Vrindavan, they manifest as Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh. And these are the Adi Chaturvyuha. And in the Vaikunta, Krishna expands as Narayan. And there is further the Dvitiya Chaturvyuha, that is again Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh in Vaikunta. And there are like that unlimited Chaturvyuhas. And all these reside in the Vaikunta planets. And these incarnations descend from the Vaikunta into this material world. That's why they are called as avatar. Avatariti iti avatar, that which descend from the higher realm to the material realm. The separated expansions are the living entities. Vibhinnamsha Jiva. Although they are expansions of Krishna, they are counted among his different potencies. Tandra Shaktita Ganana. So Jiva is the Lord Shakti. Jiva Bhuto Mahabhavo Yedam Dharate Jagat. In Bhagavad Gita also it is called as Jiva Shakti. It is actually Jiva Bhutam. Prabhupada. The personal expansions are known as Vishnu Tattva and the separate expansions are known as Jiva Tattva. So here the distinction is done between the Jiva Tattva and the Vishnu Tattva. Although the Jivas, living entities, are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are still counted among his multipotencies. Yeah, Krishna has unlimited potencies. They are principally divided into three: internal, external, and the marginal. The Jiva belongs to the marginal, the Tatastha Shakti. So it's one of his multipotencies. This is fully described by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So I had already quoted here. Aparamitastu anyam prakritim vidyam me param jiva bhutam mahabhavo yedam dharete jagat. Jiva bhutam. The jiva bhutam refers to the aggregate of all jivas. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises of living entities. It's plural here, who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Although the living entities are Krishna's part and parcels, they are Prakriti, not Purush. So this is another distinction between the Vibhinamshas and the Swamshas. The Swamshas are Vishnu Tattvas, firstly. Secondly, they are Purusha. And the Vibhinamshas also belonging to the superior energy, but still they are not Purush, they are Prakriti. This is very important for us to understand. Sometimes Prakriti, a living entity, attempts to imitate the activities of Purush. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, living entities conditioned in this material claim to be God. They are thus illusion. So when Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Purusha Prakriti Stohi, Bhaunte Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karana Guna Sangasya, Sad Asadyoni Janmasu. Purusha. No, why is Krishna then addressing, although if the living entity is Prakriti, why is Krishna addressing him as Purusha? Because Krishna is addressing a little sarcastically. Although he is Prakriti, but he is trying to imitate like a Purusha. That's why he's situated in Prakriti, trying to enjoy the Prakriti, which is made of three modes. And he is getting what? Karana Guna Sangasya, Sad Asad. He's getting sometimes because of Satuguna, he is getting Devta body. Because of association of Rajaguna or Tamaguna, he is getting, lower species body. Like that, he's suffering. So what kind of a Purusha is here? Who is changing bodies from animal species to Devta species and suffering in the cycle of birth and death. So there Krishna Purusha, although his living entity is addressed, but we should remember that the living entity is always Prakriti. A living entity cannot be on the level of Vishnu Tattva or the personality of Godhead at any stage. Therefore, it is ludicrous for the living entity to claim to be God. Advanced spiritualists would never accept such a thing. Such claims are made to cheat ordinary foolish people. And India is the land for this. This Krishna conscious movement declares war against such bogus incarnations. Prabhupada is saying the movement, our Krishna conscious movement, is meant to declare war against these bogus incarnations. The bogus propaganda put out by people claiming to be God has killed God consciousness all over the world. This is the compassion of Prabhupada, how he is bringing out in his purport. Members of the Krishna conscious movement must be very alert to defy these rascals who are presently misleading the whole world. One such rascal known as Poundrak appeared before Lord Krishna, and Lord immediately killed him. Of course, those who are Krishna's servants cannot kill such imitation gods, but they should try their best to defeat them through the evidence of Shastra, authentic knowledge received through the disciplined succession. So we should kill by philosophy, not do physical killing like Krishna does. So this is one of the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement. To this bogus propaganda, I am God, to cut it down. Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatharin. So any questions you have while discussing, you can always raise your hands and ask. Please feel free to ask any questions if you have. Text 10. Sei vibhinamsha jiva duita prakara ekanitya mukta ekanitya samsara. The living entities are divided into two categories. Some are eternally liberated and the others are eternally conditioned. So now, vibhinamsha is the jiva's marginal potency, and within that there is the nitya mukta, the nitya baddha. Nitya mukta nitya krishna charane unmukha krishna parshada nama bhunje seva sukha. Those who are eternally liberated are always awake to Krishna consciousness, and they render transcendental loving service at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. They are to be considered eternal associates of Krishna, Krishna Parshad, and they are eternally enjoying the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. Bhunje Seva Sukh. Nitya Baddha Krishna Haite Nitya Bahirmukh Nitya Samsara Bhunje Narakadi Dukh. Now the condition of the Nitya Baddhas is, apart from the ever liberated devotees, there are the conditioned souls, Nitya Baddha, who always turn away from the service of the Lord. Nitya Bahirmukh. They are perpetually conditioned in this material world and are subjected to the material tribulations brought about by different bodily forms and hellish conditions. Nitya Samsar Bhunje Narakadi Dukh. Sai doshe maya pishachi danda kare tare adhyatmika adi tapatraya tare jari mare. Due to his being opposed to Krishna consciousness, Sai dosh, the conditioned soul is punished by the witch of the external energy Maya. Maya pishachi danda kare tare. He is thus ready to suffer the threefold miseries, adhyatmikadi, miseries brought about by the body and mind, the iniquitous behavior of other living entities, and the natural disturbances brought by the demigods, tapatraya. So here, if you remember, why am I suffering these threefold miseries? Because now we are bound. That is the reason. So there's one question here. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat. Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yeah, very clearly.
Prabhuji, I have a question. When it comes to Nitya Baddha and Nitya Mukta, they have said Krishna Parshad. So the eternally liberated, do they mean the eternal associates of Krishna?
Yes, they are the eternal associates of Krishna. So they eternally reside in the spiritual world.
So Nitya Baddha will be the living entities in the material world. I mean, those who are suffering. So whenever a person turns to Krishna consciousness and let us say he does get liberated and goes back to the spiritual world, so then does he still be Nitya Baddha?
I knew that this will be the following question you will ask. Okay, so how it is, I'll tell you. The jivas are belonging to the Tatastha Shakti of the Lord. There are jivas who are always eternal associates of the Lord in the spiritual world, Nitya Parshads, like Lalita, Vishaka, Nand Maharaj, Yashoda, and unlimited servants like Sridhama, Garud, so many others in Vaikuntha planet. Now, when the jiva comes in contact with these eternal associates, the pure devotees in this material world, and gets devotion and starts practicing devotion like Narad Muni or any other personalities you can say who are coming in the Guru Shish Parampara. So when they get devotion by their practice of sadhana, they become sadhana siddha. And once they become sadhana siddha, then when they leave this world, they enter into a planet or the universe where Krishna is performing pastimes and participate in Krishna's Leela and further attain perfection. And then they become Nitya Mukta. They become Krishna's associates, Parshads, and they go back to the spiritual world. So once they go back to the spiritual world, then even if they come along with Krishna to perform pastimes in this world, they are always liberated. Now the Jiva Shakti being marginal, it can either be in the material energy or in the spiritual energy. But once the Jiva by sadhana perfects his life, the Swarupa Shakti of the Lord in the form of Ladini Shakti and the Samvit Shakti is invested in the Jiva. Now that Jiva is no more a Tatastha Shakti, now it is invested with that Swarupa Shakti of the Lord, the Bhakti Shakti. And with that energy, he is now always residing in the spiritual world, and he's now counted as a Nitya Parshad. So that is the difference. So now that Jiva doesn't belong to the marginal potency in one's Tatastha Shakti, because Tatastha Shakti means Tat. Tat means you are either sometimes this side or that side. But once you are Nitya Mukta, it's not that you turn towards Maya. No, you never turn towards Maya, because you'll always turn towards Krishna and Krishna service, because you're invested with that Sarup Shakti or the Bhakti Shakti, you can say, that is the Ladini and the Shamvit Shakti of the Lord. I hope this is clear.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was a very long-standing question. Thank you so much.
Yes, questions should be related to what we are discussing. Huh? Of course, this question was very much related. Yes, Aditya Kadam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yeah, very clearly.
Yes, Prabhuji. We have heard that Maya Devi is the energy of Lord Na. So in this verse, Maya Devi is referred as Pichachi. Right. So can you please explain that why?
Maya Devi is referred as what?
Pichachi, Pichachi.
Pishachi. Okay. Huh.
Please tell me more about this word.
Maya Pishachi Danda Kare. The conditioned soul is punished by the witch of the external energy, Maya. So here actually, when Acharya's write works, they give in Sanskrit there is Kavya and Alankar Shastra. To make a point very emphatic, they personify things, and so that we can really visualize and understand. So Krodh is anger. Now anger, very difficult to understand, the emotions of anger. But Krodh is also Pishachi. In Mahabharata, this pastime comes when Krishna, Arjuna, and Sataki went in the forest to just do Raman. So it was night, so they decided that all three of us, 2-hour slot will be guarding, and 2 of them can sleep. So first Sataki was guarding, and this Krodh Pisachi came, and he started laughing. So Sataki got very angry, and this Pisachi started more laughing, and then Sataki got more angry, and then he was killed, and he was lying. And when Arjuna got up and saw, oh, who has killed my friend Sataki? So Arjuna was very angry. He took his bow and arrow, and then he saw this Pisachi, and this Pisachi was laughing at Arjuna. Arjuna became more angry, and this Pisachi started laughing more. Arjuna still became more angry, and he was also finished by this Pisachi. When Krishna got up and saw both his eternal associates, Sataki and Arjuna, lying, then this Pisachi came and started laughing at Krishna. Krishna also started laughing. And then this Pishachi's energy came down, and Krishna finished him and then revived Sataki and Arjuna. So personification, like when you get angry on someone, the other person also gets angry. and he shouts back at you, and you shout back at him, your anger increases. You feel you're getting more energy, but your energy is getting drained. So sometimes when we personify, then we can understand things. So here, just like in the Ramayana, or there were like monstruses, devils, she demonesses who guard prisons. So, and they torment the prisoners inside. So similarly, a graphic way it is presented here in the form of Pishachi. The desires also in Bhakti Rasamrita, the Mukti, Bhukti, Pishachi, Yavat Ridhi Vartate. The desire for Mukti and Bhukti is referred to as Pishachi there also. So like that, they use it for us to personify and understand that, what is the real scenario or what is the real situation. That's why here Pishachi has been used. Is it okay? Clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes. A lot of questions coming up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhu, with reference to verse 11, it is mentioned that Nitya Nitya are to be considered eternal associate of Krishna. So does it refer to only Golokvasi?
Pardon?
Prabhu, where it is mentioned that Nitya Nitya are to be considered eternal associate of Krishna.
Yes, Krishna Parshada.
So does it refer to only Golokvasi or all Vaikuntha planets also?
All Vaikuntha. They are also Parshads of Narayan.
All right.
But they are now invested with the spiritual energy of the Lord. That is very important for us to understand. They are not no more now Tatastha Shakti, which can, where they can go Bahirmukh. That never will happen. I hope that point is clear. Okay. Okay. Sei dosha maya pishachi danda kare tare adhyatmika adi tapatraya kare jari mare. Now, what are these pishachi now? Is in the form of desires. That's what the reference is now given here in this verse. Krama kroderada sahana tara lati khaya bramite bramite yadu sadhu vaidyapaya tanra updesha mantre pishachi palay Krishna bhakti paya tabe Krishna nikatayay. In this way, the conditioned soul becomes the servant of lusty desires. Kama kroderadas. And when these are not fulfilled, he becomes a servant of anger and continues to be kicked by the external energy, Maya. Tara lati khai. Wandering and wandering throughout the universe. Bramite bramite. He may by chance get association of devotee physician. Yadi sadhu vaidyapaya. Whose instructions and hymns make the witch of external energy flee. Tandra updesha mantre pishachi palai. The conditioned soul that thus gets in touch with devotional service to Lord Krishna, Krishna Bhakti Pai, and in this way he can approach nearer and nearer to the Lord. Tabe Krishna Nikatya. So here Pishachi, is in the form of desires, and when desires are not fulfilled, then we get angry. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodha vijayate, krodh. So I spoke about the Krodh Pisachi from the Mahabharata. Somehow I did not know it was here. So that was very apt also to understand how Krodh is also Pisachi. Okay, now there is a purport to this. And Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur. An explanation of verses 8 through 15 is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabhava Bhashya. So 8 to 15 together, purport is there now here. The Lord is spread throughout his creation in his quadruple expansions and incarnations. Krishna is fully represented with all potencies in each and every personal extension. But the living entities, although separated expansions, are also considered one of Lord's energies. Vibhinna Amsha Shakti Ganana. The living entities are divided into two categories, the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned. Nitya Mukta, Nitya Bhagda. One verse spoke about it. Those who are ever liberated never come in contact with Maya, the external energy. Please remember this point, never. The ever conditioned souls are always under the clutches of the external energy. This is described by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Nitya Baddha are always under Maya. Devi Esha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duradya. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. The Nitya Baddhas are always conditioned by the external energy, and the Nitya Muktas never come in contact with the external energy. I hope this point is very clear. Sometimes an ever liberated personal associate of the Supreme Personal Godhead descends into this universe just as the Lord descends. Although working for the liberation of the conditioned souls, the messenger of the Supreme Lord remains untouched by the material energy. So these are personalities like Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who come from the spiritual world. Generally, ever liberated personalities live in the spiritual world as associates of Lord Krishna, Nitya Parshad, and they are known as Nitya Parshad, associates of the Lord. Their only business is enjoying Lord Krishna's company, and even though such eternally liberated persons come within this material world to serve the Lord's purpose, they enjoy Krishna's company without stoppage. Please mark this statement. This statement is to be deliberated upon. What does this statement mean? Anyone would like to say something about it? Think about it. Take some time. Don't be in a hurry. Anyone would like to say something? What does this statement have a deeper meaning? One, two, three hands. Okay. Maya Narsingh Prabhuji. Yes.
It means that they never are disconnected from the thought of Krishna's connection. That Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Cha Mayi Pashyati Dasyaham na Pranashyami Sachamena Pranashyati. So it means it is a thought, it is thought of consciousness. It is not physical separation from the Lord. They are connected with the Lord in their consciousness. Because ultimately we are all judged by our consciousness.
Okay, that understanding is no more from the, from our perspective, from the material world, not from the Nitya Mukta perspective. The statement means that although the eternal associates come here in this material world and they are here doing the preaching, but they are also there in one sense, in Krishna's Leela. They are there in Krishna's Leela. They enjoy Lord Krishna's company without stoppage, Prabhupada is saying that. This is inconceivable for us. Now, what you are speaking was basically elevation of consciousness, where the consciousness is always thinking about Krishna. Yes, that is for sadhakas who want to attain siddhi, or even for siddhas, they have that consciousness. But for the Nitya Parshadas, this doesn't apply. They are here also and they are there also. Krishna's company. So it's inconceivable. I hope the point is clear. Okay. So the ever liberated person who works on Krishna's behalf enjoys Lord Krishna's company through his engagement. So this is another understanding Prabhupada is also giving. The ever conditioned soul, provoked by lusty desires to enjoy the material world, is forced to transmigrate from one body to another body. Sometimes he is elevated to the higher planets, and sometimes he is degraded to hellish planets and subjected to the tribulations of external energy. So all the verses, Prabhupada together is giving purport. Due to being conditioned by the external energy, the conditioned soul within the material world gets two kinds of bodies. a gross material body and a subtle material body composed of mind, intelligence, and due to the gross and subtle bodies, he is subjected to the threefold miseries: Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika, miseries arising from the body and mind, other living entities, and natural disturbances caused by demigods from higher planets. The conditioned soul, subjected to the threefold miseries, is ceaselessly kicked by Maya, and this is his disease. So this Trivida Tap are like the kick of Maya. Just like the prisoner in the prison cell is beaten by the constable or the superintendent of the prisoner, is inflicted pain. So Maya inflicts this Trivida Tap. That's why that she is carrying the Trishul, which is referring to that Trivida Tap. If by chance he meets a saintly person who works on Krishna's behalf to deliver conditioned souls, and if he agrees to abide by his order, he can gradually approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that's the purport. So another verse is quoted in this reference. Kamadinam katina katida palita durnideshas nideshas tesham jata mahi na karuna na trapa no pashanti usrajaitan ata yadupate sampratam labda buddhi tvam ayata sharanam abhayam mam yung swatmadase. I think this is a composition of Rupa Goswami maybe in his Padyavali. Let us see. O my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Kamadinam katinam. Although I have rendered these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy upon me. So we are obedient servants of our mind, and the mind has lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, and we have been serving this very, very obediently. We have been serving, and it has been repeatedly kicking us back, but still we are there, obedient servants. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor I have even desired to give them up. O my Lord, O head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened. Samprapta labda buddhi. And now I am giving them up. Usrijatan ata yadupate. Due to transcendental intelligence, and I refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires. And now I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Tvam ayata sharanam abhayam. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. So this is a beautiful prayer. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this verse is quoted from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3:2-25. When we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are saying, Hare, O energy of the Lord, O my Lord Krishna. In this way, we are simply addressing the Lord and his spiritual potency represented by Radha Krishna, Sita Ram, or Lakshmi Narayan. The devotee always prays to the Lord and his internal energy consort so that he may engage in their transcendental loving service. When the conditioned soul attains his real spiritual energy and fully surrenders unto the Lord's lotus feet, he tries to engage in the Lord's service. This is the real consultational position of the devotee. So here 2 points have to be marked. When the conditioned soul attains his real spiritual energy and fully surrenders to the Lord's lotus feet, then there is constant engagement. That is a point here. Okay, so now I'm just taking a detour to Bhaktiyaloka because in the Dashamula Tattva, we discussed 5 tattvas are there in chapter 20. And one more tattva was there also, which was discussed. That is the jiva is Vibhinnamsha. That was mentioned. Now, this Vibhinnamsha jiva is of 2 types, the Nityamukta and the Nityabaddha. So, 2 more Dashamula tattvas. We have already studied them now, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But here it is brought out. So, I'm just doing a comparative study. So Dashamula Tattva, proof for the 6th and the 7th Tattvas. Regarding conditioned living entities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the following description in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22:10 and 21:17. So in 20 also is there, now 22 we are referring. Say Vibhinamsha Jiva Duita Prakar Ekanitya Mukta Ekanitya Samsar. So we read this verse. And 117, Krishna Buli se Jeev Anadi Bahirmukh Ataye Maya Tare De Samsara Dukh. Why am I suffering? Because Krishna Buliya. This is the reason. And Krishna Bahirmukh was mentioned in previous verses. So that verse also, is like explaining about the Nitya Baddhas. So the position of the conditions beings is the Nitya Baddhas is being discussed here. Concerning the liberated entities, the Lord says in Chaitanya Charitamrita 22:11, Nitya Mukta Nitya Krishna Charane Unmukh Krishna Parshada Nama Bhuje Seva. So we studied this. So this is the two Dashamula Tattvas which are presented. Now, the third one will be how this Nitya Baddha coming in touch with the sadhu, take up to bhakti and start practicing bhakti. That will be Abhidheya. So in one sense, Abhidheya, one of the Dashamula Tattvas, will be presented in the next series, that is from 17 to 30, which I think is time up, which we can discuss in the next section. So any questions or any clarifications up till now? Any questions anyone has? Up till now, what we have discussed? Okay, then. So we will stop here. There's one question. Okay, we'll take it up. Yes, Parsati Prabhuji.
Correct, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Prabhuji, here it was written in a certain slide that eternally liberated persons do not come under the effect of material
Well,
energy.
yes.
Here, I'm not, because I'm having a little doubt there. That is why I asked this question.
Why you are having doubt about it?
Because
they don't come under material energy. You have to accept it. Anyway,
like Jai Vijay pastime, then Tulsi.
No. See,
Vrinda
our understanding
down.
about our understanding is, we don't have a complete understanding of the whole pastime. If you read the Bhagavatam, 7th canto, Yudhishthira Maharaj is putting a question there. How can those who have spiritual bodies, be cursed and they can come to the material world? I also have never heard. Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking. Prabhupada in the purport is explaining there that, it's not that they fell down, but they descended in order to participate in the Lord's pastime. It was the will of the Lord. In fact, Jay and Vijay had a desire that they wanted to serve the Lord in Veera Ras. And the Lord also had a desire that he wanted to fight and relish Veera Ras. And, who can, fight with the Lord? Somebody who is having that kind of Shakti. So Jay and Vijay are very powerful. So they wanted to serve the Lord in Veera Ras, and that's why this whole pastime happened. So they never fell down in one sense. They are the Parshads who came down, participate in the Lord's Leela. There are further a lot of many intricate aspects to this whole pastime, but I hope this clarifies your doubt. Yes or no?
And Vrinda Maharani coming down
That is what I'm trying to tell you, that when we hear these Puranic stories, they are, we have to understand, there are different levels of explanations and different levels of understanding. And, if you don't have the right complete understanding, then you can, can mistake the pastimes.
Okay.
So, as I explained in the Jail Vijay, the same place applies to that. We should not. I don't want to go into that subject because it's a very technical and philosophical subject. That the Puranas reveal a certain aspect of the pastime. Like, I'll give you an example, that Ganga Devi, when she was there in the heavenly abode, and she was cursed, right? You know that, right?
Yes.
She came down, right?
Yes.
This is the version given. Now, this is for those who don't have adhikar to understand higher truths from the spiritual realm perspective. Ganga is an eternal associate of the Lord in the spiritual world. And the Lord, wanted her to descend so that he can perform pastimes and deliver the conditioned souls. So, if you study only the pastime based from the Mahabharata perspective, then you'll get a different understanding. But you have to understand from the Adhyatmic perspective, it is called. This is the Adi Bhautik perspective or the Adi Daivik perspective. So, Adhyatmic perspective is that Ganga Devi is an eternal associate from the spiritual world, and she descended for a purpose to deliver the conditioned souls. And the pastimes, only if you hear the pastime of the curse and all, then you'll mistake the pastimes and you'll not get the right clear understanding. So we have to have this understanding at different levels, and then only we can have a clear picture. Just because I brought out this topic of the manifestations of Adhyatmika, Adi Devika and Adi Bhautika, like Ganga Devi, the Adi Bhautik manifestation of Ganga Devi is what you see, Ganga river. You can see she's Ganga, but she's in her Adi Bhautik manifestation. The Adi Daivik manifestation we cannot see with our eyes. Actually, Ganga Devi is there riding on her crocodile, sitting. And you have seen the Ganga Devi deities, right? Where they are worshipped in temples. So that's her Adi Daivika manifestation. And then Ganga Devi, that was the Adi Daivika manifestation pastime which happened where the curse happened. But Ganga Devi is having an Adhyatmic manifestation in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world. So there are these Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Adhyatmika manifestations. Now, don't confuse Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika to Adhyatmik Klesh, Adi Bhautik Klesh, and Adi Daivik Klesh. These are terms, and they are applied in different contexts. Similarly, we hear, mother cow. Now, have you seen earth as a cow? Have you ever seen earth in the form of cow? No, you have seen earth. So earth is, the Adi Bhautika manifestation. And our Adi Daivika manifestation is in the form of a cow. Prithu Maharaj milked Mother Earth and got all this, right? And there is also an Adhyatmic manifestation. She is Bhumi Devi in the spiritual world. She is Bhumi Devi. Her manifestation is there in the spiritual world. So like that, these different energies and Shaktis are manifestation. And some Puranas only highlight the Adi by the Daivik manifestations because their Adhikaris are not entitled to understand these higher truths. So that's why only when you understand these all different levels of manifestation, then you get a clear picture and understanding. I hope now things are a little clear.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Clear?
Thank you. Yes. Yes, I accept. Thank you.
Okay. There's any other question? Somebody else also had raised the hand. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Lord Dandatna. Prabhu, with reference to verse 16, there is a mention of transcendental intelligence.
One minute. Verse 16.
Yes, in translation.
Due to transcendental intelligence. Yeah.
Oh, if you can elaborate this transcendental intelligence question.
Yeah. Transcendental intelligence means when our intelligence is now corrupted. Intelligence is under the dictation of the mind. And the senses dictate the mind dictates the intelligence. And then the soul, follows this and then gets trapped in Maya. So this awakening of transcendental intelligence is given by the instructions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So the intelligence, preaching means preaching to the intelligence. So when we hear from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, then slowly the awakening of transcendental intelligence happens. And with that transcendental intelligence, we control the mind, we control the senses. And thereby, when that, intelligence, which is now material and corrupted, gets spiritualized, then the soul's intelligence awakens. Then the soul directs the intelligence directs the mind directs the senses. When the intelligence gets completely purified. Now, the mind directs everything. The mind directs the intelligence, and the intelligence pulls the soul in the wrong direction. So like that, there is this material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. So when we are under the dictation of the mind, we are under material intelligence. And when we are under the dictation of the soul, then we are working under transcendental intelligence. Now, because the soul is deep in slumber because of avidya, it cannot awaken its own intelligence, soul's intelligence. So we have to take the superior help of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And, we can take the help of the superior intelligence in the form of Paramatma, but because we are covered, we cannot access the voice of the Paramatma. But the Paramatma's voice, what is there in the form of Chaitguru internally, manifest externally as a spiritual master. So there, by hearing his transcendental instructions, then the transcendental intelligence awakens, and slowly, we get to know the reality of how we are trapped in Maya and how to get out of it. Is it okay?
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, there is a whole discussion, entire article on this by Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he discusses, I think, in one of his articles in Dhairya, I think. Sa Nishchay Dhairya Tat Tat Karma Pravartana. Sa Nishchay Dhairya. I don't recollect which article it is. There he has mentioned this. So whatever I spoke was from that. Okay, any other questions or clarifications? Okay, then. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.